I'd like to welcome everybody to the Valencia Lakes Military Veterans Club Memorial Day ceremony. For those who don't know me, I'm Joe Lumia. I'm the president of the Veterans Club, and just take a second or two, just look around. You filled out the place. It's absolutely unbelievable, and it's heartwarming to know that we're here for the right reason. And that right reason is the remembrance of those who have served our country, who have passed, whether they were in, whether it be wartime or peacetime. Since last Memorial Day, we've had a number. At this time, I'd like to bring up Bill Schaefer, our chaplain, to lead us in an invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. And I'd also like to invite the singers to come up behind us. They will then lead us in the national anthem and America the Beautiful.
Oh, what a crowd. As we gather on this 154th Memorial Day, a day of uncertain times in our country and in the world, let us pause to remember those who, through their military service, gave their lives for the freedom we enjoy. These are unique times. On this Memorial Day that is meant to commemorate those who gave the last full measure of their lives in military service, we also ask you to remember our first responders and healthcare providers who have given their lives in a new kind of war. They too are fallen heroes. May the Lord remember forever our brothers and sisters who have made the ultimate sacrifice by giving their lives in defense of our country and principles of freedom and liberty for which we stand. To all veterans, past and present, we owe a debt of gratitude. We say to you, thank you for a job well done. May God continue to bless our community of Valencia Lakes and the United States of America. Would you now join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? And if you're a veteran, I can remind you can salute the flag. That's a new thing now. If you prefer that, to put your hand over your heart. So join me, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God bless America.
Purple mountain
You may be seated. There are 2 days every year that we celebrate or we honor those who have served our country: Memorial Day and Veterans Day. Veterans Day, we celebrate living veterans, living active duty members. Memorial Day is when we take the time to honor those who have passed. Since Memorial Day last year, we've had friends and neighbors that have passed, who have served our country that have passed. These are David Durkin, U.S. Navy; Ralph McAlpine, U.S. Army; David Sigler, U.S. Air Force; Don Oriens, U.S. Army; David Underlack, U.S. Army; Bob Bassel, U.S. Army. We've also suffered the loss of a club member, and although she wasn't a veteran, her husband was. Gerald Love served our club very well as the assistant secretary, making sure that everybody in the club received, birthday announcements, anniversary announcements, and she will be missed. The Blue and Gold Star families is what you'll hear a little bit about today. The United States established specific groups in our country to identify families of military members. They're known as Blue Star families. The government went one step further, back some years ago, to identify those family members who lost loved ones during their time as military members. Now, this loss, it pertains to all active duty, whether it be peacetime, wartime. It didn't matter. If a member was active duty and they lost their life, the families became Gold Star families. We have one such, we have, I don't know if anybody remembers seeing a post I put out. I use Nextdoor because a lot of people see me Nextdoor. Looking for people in our community that may be Gold Star families. And I did have one person contact me. Her name is Jane Rayberg. Her father is was a U.S. Army Air Corps pilot during World War II who was shot down and killed over Germany just before she was born. She qualifies as a Gold Star family. We also have another such family that lives with us, or lives in our community, Rich and Eileen Stern. They have graciously agreed to come and speak and share the story of their son Andy. So without further ado, I'd like to call up and ask Eileen and Rich to come.
Thank you, Joe. Good morning, friends and neighbors. You joined us here 5 years ago. This may seem familiar. In 2017, we were invited by the Military Veterans Club to address the community on Memorial Day. It is a genuine honor, a bit of a surprise, to be invited back this year. Yes, this is a rerun. I'm Rich Stern, and soon you'll hear from my wife, Eileen. We've been Valencia Lakes residents for 7 years. Our purpose this morning is to introduce you to our son, Andy, and to explain the significance of Memorial Day for our family. Before continuing, I want to acknowledge two groups, both of whom Joe already alluded to. First, the many of you who have served in the military. To all Valencia Lakes residents who were in the military, thank you. It is truly an honor to be your neighbor. I applaud you. Second, and I'm going to duplicate a little bit of what Joe did. We'll coordinate better if there is a next time. I would like anyone whose children, spouses, siblings, or even grandchildren are currently on active duty to rise. These are Valencia Lakes Blue Star families, a group we acknowledge too infrequently. Thank you for letting these neighbors know that they and their loved ones are in our thoughts and prayers. The events of today's world should remind each of us that serving our country and our communities is always noble and dangerous, regardless of one's posting or role. And before proceeding today, while today is for honoring those who fell while in military uniform, I would be remiss if I failed to mention the innocent people who lost their lives horrifically the past 2 weeks in Uvalde and Buffalo. Please honor their memory with me in a moment of silence. Thank you. May their families muster the strength to continue, and may they know no more sorrow. I'd like to tell you that the balance of this morning's program is going to be more uplifting, but I'd be lying. So what does Memorial Day mean for we Sterns? Simply, it's the day we remember and honor our nation's fallen, those who were killed in action in defense of the United States. This day and its meaning became too personal for us in 2004. On October 16th, almost 18 years ago, Eileen and I were returning to our suburban Memphis home after attending holiday services at a synagogue. I'm not religious, but I support Eileen by attending with her. It was an absolutely beautiful day, not a cloud in the blue sky. On the way home, I was reflecting on my lack of spirituality and thinking, maybe I'm wrong. Our second son had just graduated from college and was working. Our twin sons, our numbers 3 and 4, had started college and had bright futures. Our marriage was strong. All in our family were healthy. And our eldest son and my best friend, Andy, 24 at the time, would be returning home in a month from his Marine Tank Platoon Command in Iraq. Yes, I must be wrong, I thought. Who am I to have so many blessings? We turned the corner onto our street, and standing straight and resolute in our driveway were 2 Marine sergeants in their dress blue uniforms, the worst sight imaginable for a parent or spouse with a loved one in the military. They were there to inform us that Andy took IED shrapnel in his neck while atop his tank near Fallujah and died a few hours later. Casualty assistance officers in our driveway were ambassadors of our nation, dispatched to convey the impossible news that Andy was killed in action. They were incredible. They have the most difficult job in the military. Over the last 7 years, occasionally, our Valencia Lakes friends ask us to tell them about Andy. Eileen and I usually deflect those requests. But on this Memorial Day, as we did 5 years ago, please allow us to share with you what this day and every day is about for Lee Stearns. Here is Andy's story. Stearns was born in Chicago in March 1980, the first of 4 Stearns sons. His stubborn will and intensity appeared early, subjecting his mother Eileen to 46 hours of labor. He was rambunctious, energetic, hardworking, bright, a bit belligerent, and always mischievous and funny. Even as a young boy, he comported himself with a commanding deep voice, with swagger, and with great gusto. Like most Marines, he always had a big, interesting personality, filling each room he entered with his voice, confidence, and smile. He went to high school at Culver Academy near South Bend, Indiana. At Culver, his interests were girls, rowing, becoming co-captain of a nationally ranked crew team, learning military protocol, achieving the 2nd highest rank among 700 young men, and academics. With his family's move to Memphis in 1997, Andy decided to attend the University of Tennessee. At Tennessee, he continued to row, eventually becoming the team captain, and he enrolled in the Marine Platoon Leaders Program, training with local Marines each week and attending Officers Candidate School in Quantico, Virginia during the summers. Andy accepted his officer's commission on December 15, 2001, the day he graduated from Tennessee with a degree in business. As always, he was in a hurry to get to the next place in his life, and thus graduated in 3.5 years. Just after September 11, 2001, we spoke with Andy about how drastically the world had changed, and we asked him to reconsider accepting his Marine commission. His response was, "Mom and Dad, I want to be a Marine more than ever." Andy broke his leg skiing just after he graduated, delaying his going to the Marine Basic School, which all Marine officers attend in Quantico. His accident nearly resulted in the loss of the leg, required 3 surgeries, and his having an 18-inch titanium rod placed in the leg. Before the accident, Andy's 3-mile running time was a bit over 20 minutes. After working hard to overcome the injury, and despite the titanium rod, his 3-mile time was under 19 minutes. He was incredibly strong, able to bench press over 350 pounds and deadlift almost 500, confounding his friends with his strength, being only 5 feet 9 inches and weighing 165 pounds, though he always seemed larger than life, standing straight and tall as Marines do. He excelled at the basic school, fully recovering from his broken leg, though the rod remained in the leg. And in July 2003, Andy graduated 13th in a class of 236 incredible Marine officers. He chose to move on to Armor Officer Basic School at Fort Knox, Kentucky, where he learned to be a tank platoon command. Andy graduated from the Armor Officer course in December 2003, ranking 3rd in a class of 64, most of whom were recent West Point graduates or Allied officers from NATO partners. Then, in his beloved Toyota Tacoma, Andy trekked across the country to his permanent Marine base at 29 Palms, California. Upon arriving, he was promoted to first lieutenant. In early April 2004, Andy learned of a combat-ready tank platoon about to be deployed to Iraq. That platoon needed a commander, he learned, and around Easter Day in 2004, he volunteered to take command and was given responsibility for the 4 tanks and 16 men comprising the 3rd Platoon of Bravo Company and the 1st Tank Battalion of the 1st Marine Division. He left for Iraq on April 17th, days after he volunteered. Had he not volunteered, his deployment was to be scheduled in the fall. During Andy's 5 months in Iraq, his platoon engaged in constant and intense fighting, dealing with incredible heat, dust, a doubting Iraqi people, Spartan conditions, and an enemy that was indistinguishable from common citizens. During a 7-day period in August, the platoon was involved in particularly intense fighting while it was being observed by the colonel, who was the battalion commander. The platoon completed a variety of missions without a single Marine incurring injury and with success attributed to each mission. For leadership, gallantry, and courage during this period, Andy was awarded a Bronze Star with Valor, having been nominated by the battalion commander. On September 16, 2004, Andy's platoon was asked to provide armored security for the Army Corps of Engineers. The Army Corps was building a road in northeast Fallujah. Andy, like all Marine officers, always led from the front, and he took 2 of his 4 tanks to the area. An engineer sergeant asked Andy to inspect suspicious debris a few hundred feet in the distance where the road crew was about to go and people were milling about. Dozens of Corps of Engineers staff were working nearby, and Andy asked them to clear the area, ultimately saving many lives. Andy, body out of tank hatch, drove by the debris and noticed nothing, but he wanted a closer look and asked his driver to turn the tank around. This time, as the tank approached the debris, Andy was closest to the pile of rubbish and saw something. He yelled, "Oh no," and instinctively used his body to shield the other man outside the tank hatch, his gun holder, saving the man's life. The debris concealed an improvised explosive device. As Andy's tank came by for a second look, the device was detonated, probably by someone hiding in a nearby building. Andy had seen thin wires protruding from the debris. He took shrapnel to the face and neck and died 4 hours later. Like all of our fallen warriors, Andy is ageless, and his legend and stories of his big life populate his family's gatherings. He now rests with tens of thousands of American heroes at Arlington National Cemetery. On October 8, 2004, 22 days after Andy was killed in action, all 15 men in his platoon safely returned to the United States. Andy had accomplished his personal and last mission to bring all of his men home safely. The story of Andy's life is moving, yes, but its significance and distinction is in its ending. I suspect many of you could put together an equally moving slideshow about your children, hopefully a joyous story providing the ending, where the ending cannot yet be written. But Andy's story is not what today is about. Andy is a symbol, one of many, of what too cavalierly is described as the cost of freedom. That cost is something very real, and it's staggering, and we all have stake in it, whether we know it or not. In our nation's 246-year history, more than 1.3 million Americans in uniform lost their lives in defense of the United States. That's 1.3 million. Were we to construct a wall like the Vietnam Memorial, emblazoned with the names of all our war fallen, it would stretch 1.5 miles. So I ask you on this Memorial Day and every Memorial Day to reflect, if only for a few minutes, about the day's relevance. If you didn't before coming here today, though some of you already know others who were killed in action, you now have a trigger for remembering, the reason for Memorial Day. And that trigger is Andy. The sacrifices of our young men and women, if they weren't before, should now be tangible to you. Real people serve, real people are injured, and real people die. And some of those people are your neighbors. It's fine and appropriate to enjoy Memorial Day, spend time with family, picnic, go to the pool, or do whatever you desire. Andy would want this, and he fought so you can enjoy this right. But please reflect for a few minutes and remember that your ability to enjoy this day has been achieved in part by the more than 1.3 million who have fallen. Their sacrifice enables this day and every day to occur for all Americans. And that, friends and neighbors, is what Memorial Day is about. Remembering and honoring the fallen. Before concluding, I want to acknowledge that given our ages, all of us have known loss and grief. Many of us have lost a loved one. Most tragically, some of us have lost a child. Nothing is more debilitating, unnatural, and heartbreaking. Just think about the indescribable tragedy in Uvalde last week. And those losses are in no way less painful or significant than is our loss of Andy. Only the circumstances were different. One of our country's leaders who suffered the loss of a child sagely said in a speech to a group of parents whose children had been killed, "It can and will get better. There will come a day, I promise, when thoughts of your son or daughter or husband or wife will bring a smile to your face before they bring a tear." My hope for all of you who've endured loss is that you've reached or soon will reach a place when you think of your loved one, a smile graces your face before tears flow. Eileen and I achieved this over time in part because of the lovely, compassionate people we're proud to call our friends here in Valencia Lakes. So thank you. I'd like to thank the Military Veterans Club and particularly Joe Lumia for inviting us again to tell Andy's story. Also, thanks to the ubiquitous Tom and Donna Rao, without whose efforts the technology in our social hall might function like a broken flip phone. Please remember, Memorial Day first and foremost is to remember our fallen. And now I'd like to introduce you to Andy's mom, Eileen.
Wow. Good morning. Thank you for being here today. You recognize that, sorry, before we spend the day at a picnic or relaxing, we as a nation have business, and that being to honor and remember those who fell on the battlefield for us. I'm here for two reasons today. First, I represent American Gold Star Mothers. I want to tell you about our organization, Second, I want to share my view of the meaning of Memorial Day and what the takeaways might be for you. Memorial Day is for remembering those who died while serving in the country's armed forces. The custom originated as Decoration Day. In 1868, when the Grand Army of the Republic, an organization of Union veterans established the day as time for the nation to decorate the graves of the Union with flowers. By the 20th century, competing Union and Confederate forces' Memorial Days were combined to become one and emerge into Memorial Day. And eventually, all Americans who died while serving their country were honored on this day. It became a national holiday officially in 1971. In May of 1918, near the end of World War II, President Wilson suggested that families with men currently serving their country in the armed forces display a Blue Star service flag in their homes. He decreed that families who lost a child or spouse while deployed and defending our nation should then display a Gold Star family flag in their homes. In January of 1929, Congress chartered a non-denominational, non-profit, and non-political organization to be known as American Gold Star Mothers, embracing the name from President Wilson to suggest that Gold Star represents an American life lost in defense of our country. Since then, American Gold Star Mothers has become the only federally chartered organization that supports the moms whose sons and daughters gave the ultimate sacrifice. Our organization assists families to endure and cope with their loss and grief. We assist veterans organizations with a distinct focus on helping families who have been, the fallen who have been injured in battle. Our chapters are in every state, and there are way too many members. I'm a member of American Gold Star Mothers Tampa Bay chapter. Unfortunately, our organization is comprised completely of moms who have lost a child and prefer not to be members. We know too well that forevermore there will be an empty seat at the tables in our homes. Each Gold Star family has a direct stake in the outcome of Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, and the many other conflicts where our nation was deployed. The names of distant countries where our troops fought are to too many people abstract places where other people serve. It is important to me on this Memorial Day and on all days that Americans take the time to reflect on their being stakeholders in all our country's military deployments. I too had only a very abstract and indirect stake in the wars. That ended when my beloved eldest son decided to go to Marine Officers Candidate School. Then his being in harm's way for our country became tangible in my view. This is the most important message that I can convey to you today, whether we know it or not, and I know that most of you in Valencia Lakes do know this. We all have a stake in our American armed forces. When our young men and women go into battle, following orders, each of them in a tangible way sent them. Our troops being deployed do not have the luxury to ask the cause. If the cause is worthy, they do what they are told. They do it well, and they do not hesitate. It is our job as citizens to influence our leaders, to deploy our military only when we as a people have a consensus to do so. And of course, I cannot let my few minutes before you end without remembering my son, my firstborn Marine First Lieutenant Andrew Stern. Andy is among the 400,000 Americans at rest at Arlington National Cemetery. Because of Andy, every day is Memorial Day for me. As Rich Inferred, there have been 1.3 million Gold Star mothers. If anything epitomizes the saying that freedom is not free, think of that number, 1.3 million Gold Star mothers. And it is a sacrifice of their children that we recognize this day. I thank God for every day, for the time, albeit very short, that I've spent with Andy. And, sorry. And for the heroes with whom he served and with whom he rests at Arlington National Cemetery. Those brave men and women who fought for a cause larger than themselves. This country, again, Rich and I appreciate you all being here today to honor and remember our nation's fallen on this Memorial Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. If you haven't noticed, there's a flag behind me, and I'm going to straighten it out. Which represents Andy's passing and the representation of the Gold Star family. At this time, I'd like to ask Sandra, she's ready. We are going to present the wreath that was graciously constructed and donated by Gail Hopper from the Garden Club. At which time, now this is a change in your program. Just kind of flip-flop the singers and the wreath presentation and the playing of taps. We're going to do that first, and then I'll invite the singers up for a final few songs and then final comments. But at this time, I'd like to present the wreath. Once again, the Valencia singers. As they're assembling, there's another number that hits this nation, and it hits this nation pretty hard. And the number is going down, but it's not zero. It's the number of veterans that commit suicide. Up until the middle of last year, the number was 22 per day. It's apparently has dropped to 19, which is okay news. Not great news, it's okay news. Great news would be zero. So if you have an opportunity to talk to a veteran, lend an ear. Give them an opportunity, if there's a story that they want to share, give them that opportunity to do so. Sometimes that one little talk would be all they need. Get over the top. I'd like to, again, welcome the Valencia Singers. just before the ceremony started, and this is kind of an ad-lib thing, but a friend of mine, Bill, mentioned to me, he says, folks, this was issued to me in 1991 before I went over to the desert. So this is legit. This is I didn't just go by this one. I actually squeezed it, you know. In all seriousness, thank you all. Thank you all. Tom, Donna, thank you so much for helping. Sandra, thank you. A number of people came together to put this together for us. And lastly, Rich, I thank you. Wonderful times. With that concludes today's ceremony. Thank you all for coming out. Please, as our veterans would want, go out and enjoy the day. It's what it's about. Just remember.